Welcome back, everybody. Hot Mic rolls on live on location here at Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas. Big 12 Media Days. The official gaggle is here. More to come with since we're on in Central Time. It's great to see Kellis Robinett join us from the Wichita Eagle. He's one of the few that's actually been to Fargo, covered North Dakota State football. Yes. You were there for Chris Kleiman's swan song in Fargo against South Dakota State. And now here we are, now going on year 6 with him leading the Wildcats. It's great to see you. This is a new venture. We were just visiting with Gene Taylor about this, about the Big 12 coming to Las Vegas. Typically this has been in Dallas. Give me your initial impressions of coming here.
It's different for sure. This is my 15th year covering Kansas State in the Big 12, and it's always been in Dallas, Arlington. Yeah. So a little different, but I like the venue. I like the palm trees outside.
Could do without the 120 degrees.
Yeah, the 120 degrees is warm, but at least, when you're walking on the strip or whatever, you can just duck into a casino and get some AC. And it's a dry heat. It's a dry heat. People say, maybe that's overrated, but in Kansas, North Dakota,
right?
We've been
humidity,
so much rain in Kansas. I mean, there have been days where it's 80 and it feels hotter than it does here right now, just because you're just soaking.
You were just visiting with Chris Kleiman. We're going to visit with him here after he gets done with some of his official functions after the show. This is a team that's coming off a bowl win. They're picked second in the preseason poll. I want to get your thoughts on Utah being number 1 and not playing a game in the league yet. That's interesting. But expectations for Kleiman's 2024 team, where are they at?
I mean, they're high. This is the highest I can ever remember Kansas State being in the preseason poll, even back when they won the league in 2022 and in 2013 or 2012, the years are running together. I mean, they were, middle of the conference. Yeah. People thought they'd go to a bowl game but not contend. So that's always where they've been. So it's interesting now with Texas and Oklahoma gone. They're finally moving up a little bit. I think Kansas State fans are actually upset that they weren't picked first with everything that they have coming back. I would say it's a little understandable from my point of view just because their quarterback's a sophomore, never been through a full season. Their offensive coordinator is brand new, has never done this before. They're replacing some of their best players at some key positions. So it's not going to be a cake in the, a walk in the park here. Could they win it? Absolutely. But I think second is a good starting position. And Utah, I did not pick Utah first. I actually had them 4th in my poll.
No kidding.
Just because if you look back historically, no team has come into the Big 12 and just run away.
I mentioned that at the top of the show.
It's never happened.
So North Dakota State had the similar thing when they got out of the Missouri Valley Football Conference. They were picked number 1. Having never played a game. They finished 6-5 that year in the middle of the pack because they got woken up. Okay, and the Valley, as you've seen it, is still the number 1 league in FCS. So I liken that to Utah. I know they're a really good football program, but they haven't played it down in this conference yet.
They haven't. And, I mean, you go back, West Virginia, when they came into the league, everybody thought they were coming off an Orange Bowl season where they scored like 70 points in the game. Yeah. Looked amazing. Everybody was just thrilled that they were coming to the conference. They were ranked to the top 10. They played their non-conference games, killed everybody, and then they were like 500 in conference play. Kansas State whooped them. Just whooped them. Their first year ever, they went to Morgantown and won by like 40. I mean, it just happens. It's just you got to play. It's a different style, different venues. It's just hard. No team has ever come in and just run away with it in year 1. TCU struggled. West Virginia struggled. Last year, all the new teams coming in. I mean, Houston, granted they weren't as good as Utah, but they were just getting, pummeled left and right. Yeah, so it's a transition. And I will say Utah is probably better equipped to handle this than any other team that's come in, looking at their history in the Pac-12. But I don't think it's going to be as easy as some people think.
Avery Johnson, we got a sample of what happened in the Pop-Tarts Bowl. How about him being the guy now in 2024?
Well, the only thing he lacks is experience. Yeah. I mean, really, everything else. He's fast. He's got a great arm. From a talent perspective, you couldn't ask for much more from a quarterback. He is, just electric. Just to tell you how good he is, at least how much potential he has, Will Howard left Kansas State for Ohio State. And, Kansas State fans don't mind, it's like we
got this guy, right?
I mean, no offense to Will Howard, he's a great quarterback, but people want this guy. He's I hate to say he's Michael Vick or something like that, but he has got wheels.
Yeah,
he's just
we saw it in the bowl game. Holy
he's
cow!
Very exciting to watch. Can make things happen. And if he can hit his full potential right away, then this team's going to be great. But that's the question. As a true sophomore, how many growing pains are there going to be? A lot. 0. I think that'll depend on how their season goes.
We see it, Kellis, on the FCS side of the players moving up. Marquis Siegel, now one of Kleiman's best players, started at North Dakota State, was a really good player there. And your angle at K-State, seeing players then depart for how are teams at your level adjusting now to the portal and NIL, where you're at a Power 4 school, but there are other schools that can spend more to get players away from K-State to go elsewhere.
Yeah, I mean, it's different. Kansas State has lost players for all kinds of different reasons. You know, the one that fans are okay with is they're not getting enough playing time. They want to go somewhere else. That happens just about everywhere. But kind of the thing that Kansas State has had to deal with is players like Kobe Savage was one of their best defensive players last year. He decides to leave for Oregon for more money, higher profile. That's kind of what they're dealing with, especially now that the Big Ten and the SEC have separated themselves a little bit. How does Kansas State keep their best players from taking that leap and leaving to pursue those options? They've done a pretty good job. I mean, they kept Avery Johnson. They kept the players they absolutely really, really wanted to keep, but they're still losing guys. And the thing they do, the one thing they do really like to do is when they lose somebody, they like to go FCS to replace them. And it seems like every year they get somebody with a North Dakota State connection, and whenever that guy comes in, he's always really good. Yeah. So I mean, it all carries over.
And that's the tough part about covering this division, because you see the rarity of guys staying. You saw Easton stick. There's no way, I don't think. I mean, Easton is a rarity, and I think he would stay, but a player of his caliber is my analogy. No way a guy like him stays 4 years at an FCS school anymore. No way.
Very unlikely.
No way.
Very unlikely. And, you know, I think most colleges, I mean, unless you're at the elite of the elite, even, I mean, Dylan Gabriel last year transferred from Oklahoma. There's always something better out there. So I mean, there still are some 6-year quarterbacks, amazingly, that stick it out in one place. But I think it's becoming more and more rare. And I mean, at least it's a little better than basketball. In basketball, like
crazy.
You can get 2 years out of somebody.
You're
really
right.
doing great. Football, at least you're getting 2 and 3. No doubt. We just all have to get used to it.
We're here, obviously, because North Dakota State is opening the football season with Colorado. That is the talk of college football, even for a team that only won 4 games. What's your interest level of where Deion Sanders and the Buffaloes now heading into the Big 12?
I mean, very high. Everybody's very interested in what's happening out there just because Deion Sanders is, a show in
Deion, right?
Yeah, exactly. There's nothing he can do that doesn't get a whole bunch of attention. I mean, personally, I don't think Colorado's going to be all that good. I think they're overrated. I see where the EA Sports, the college football game, had them as like a top 15 team, which is just ridiculous to me. Their Vegas over/under is 5.5 wins. So somebody's wrong here. I think their flamboyant personalities hurt them. I think teams circle them on the schedule. Everybody wants to beat them, so it's hard for them just to go out and sneak up on anybody. But I mean, they've got talent, so. You never know. Maybe they could come in and be great this year. I think they'll struggle, but they're always interesting.
And that's on the flip side for North Dakota State. Colorado's looking ahead already. Their second game's Nebraska. I'm really interested in the Bison to open up there. If they're not worried about NDSU. I don't know how Deion gets his team even fired up to play a team like North Dakota State.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. But, I mean, by the same token, I remember they played Arizona a few years ago, and Arizona seemed very fired up.
Jed Fish made a certain point of that after the game. There's no doubt about it. You're exactly right.
I mean, if there is an FCS team that you're not going to overlook, it's North Dakota State. But you're right. Their schedule's loaded. Nebraska, Colorado State on deck. I mean, I definitely have interest in that game. I think North Dakota State could win it. I wouldn't be surprised at that.
Lastly, before I let you go, Oklahoma State also opens with South Dakota State. Hopefully we'll get a chance to talk to Mike Gundy about it, because he can't be thrilled. The Jackrabbits have won 29 in a row, and they're now what NDSU was a couple years ago.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what some of these FBS teams are thinking of scheduling these guys. That's not who I would want on there. But, I mean, you got to schedule somebody, I suppose, if you got to. I mean, you might as well give your team some kind of a test there in game one. But, that's tough. And anytime you see South Dakota State or North Dakota State on an FBS schedule, you kind of circle a little bit and say, okay, there's a possibility for an upset here. And Oklahoma State, they've figured things out. And they know how to beat conference teams, but weirdly, they always
struggle.
They struggle early.
Right.
They lost, was it Central Michigan last year? Or they've lost to them before.
South Alabama?
South Alabama.
There was South Alabama.
Pummeled by South Alabama last season. It had everybody everybody
Right.
thrown off their scent, and then they
Yep.
come out and they almost win the Big 12. So, yeah, it wouldn't put it's as weird as it sounds. It would not shock me if they lost that game, and then we're still in the Big 12
All
championship.
right, it's July 9th. We got you on video here. Under/over Kansas State win total at 10.
Oy. Well, let me put it this way. Well, if it's 10, I'd honestly probably say push it.
Okay.
I think they do win 10 games.
Or 10.5 then.
10.5, I'd go under.
Okay.
That's a pretty rich number there, 10.5. Yeah, I mean, well, I'll say this. When I look at the schedule and I just go win or loss, I've got them at 10 or 11 wins. But goofy things happen. That's not taking into account a single injury.
Correct.
That happens.
Yep.
Things don't fall their way. I could see it going under. So, but if under perfect circumstances, over, yes.
It's great to see you. Thanks so much for making time for us. I appreciate it. Enjoy your time here, and we'll talk soon, okay?
All right, thanks for having me.
Kellis Robinett from the Wichita Eagle joining us here on Hot Mic. We'll